in case you're wondering, this is Project Valiant, our 1968 Plymouth Valiant project car. We're here at Outlaw Motorsports in Riverside, California, and today we're going to be installing a set of subframe connectors in this A-body, and these are from Reilly Motorsports. We're also going to be using our Miller-Matic 211 with auto set for our MIG welding, and then we're going to be finishing it off with some extreme chassis black satin paint from Eastwood. So, in case you didn't know this already, Mopar A-bodies are unibody construction, meaning that, unlike many other cars out there, it is not a body on frame. What that means is that the subframe and the body parts, they're all integrated together for strength. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get up under this thing. Now here we are underneath our Plymouth, and here we have the rear subframe here, and we have some channels here that are basically look like frames, but you can see that they terminate right here in the body. And then we have just the body itself, and here the front of the car we have a stub. Actually, it's not so much a stub, that would actually mean that it comes off of the car, but it is actually welded to the front of the car. This does not unbolt like on a GM F-body or Next body. So we have this subframe arrangement in the front, and then we have subframe in the back. And the obvious thing we need to do, if we're going to keep this thing from twisting into a pretzel when we hit the gas the first time, is we need to tie these together. One of the things that you have to do when you weld in subframe connectors into any cars, you got to take out the seats and the carpet, or else it's going to catch on fire. And this 46-year-old interior really makes you want to have a tetanus shot after you touch any of this stuff. It is just really rank in there. Probably going to replace this carpet, so we probably won't see this anymore again. Ron has our carpet and underlay out of the car, and like many Mopars that are this age that haven't been restored, looks like we've got a little bit of a rust problem in here that we'll have to deal with later. Probably have to get some floor pans in there. But right now, the whole idea is to not have the interior catch fire when we weld the subframe connectors in. Our subframe connectors are made out of this channeled 1/8-inch thick steel, and if you look down here, you can see the kind of strength that's going to give it as the car twists and turns. Having this up in the body here, Ron, could you put that up there and just show people where we're going to be putting this? This particular one on the passenger side, we're going to have to relocate this fuel line here, but you can see that the contour of the subframe connector, it follows very closely the shape of the floor, so I would imagine that that's all going to be welded together, and in effect it's going to actually make this unibody car a solid frame in the end. When we trial fit the subframe connector up on the passenger side, we noticed that the fuel line was in the way, and since we're going to be doing a completely new fuel system on our car, we just decided to cut it off, throw it away. So where were you grinding there, Ron? Show us where. Right in here. Yeah, that had to come out right there so that it could lay flat. Getting there. Well, you may also need to reroute your parking brake cable here, and what Ron's doing is just unscrewing it and going to put that assembly aside while he fits the subframe connector in place on the driver's side here. Looks like also the regular service brake line is going to have to be temporarily rerouted as well. When you're trial fitting the subframe connectors onto your Mopar, you'll notice that there's a series of breakout tabs. Here's one right here, and over here there's a series of them. And those are actually for different types of bodies. Now, I suspect that those are designed to be popped out to conform with this bead that's punched into the body there. But you know, you'll have to form fit this thing to the body as you go. We're actually probably going to cut this out right here so that the brake line can pass actually inside that channel right there, so that we don't have to scrap that line. See how that brake line routes around there nicely with that cutout. The subframe connector has been fit into the body of the car and inscribed where the outline is, so that we can grind away, mark and grind away the paint, and that will allow us to have good penetration on our weld. And just check out the beautiful welds made by the Millermatic 211. Well, Ron's getting ready to weld the second one here, so he's just tapping it a few times to get it to fit snugly up against the chassis. And then here, this clamp, he's going to use that to kind of pull, to draw the side pieces in together so that they make good solid contact with the rear frame rail. When you weld subframe connectors into a factory floor pan, something you really need to keep in mind, and that is that you're welding a much thicker metal, which is the subframe connector itself, which is 1/8 of an inch thick, and you're welding that to a very thin floor pan, which is probably 18 or 20 gauge. Ron, tell us a little bit about what a good technique would be for doing that on this type of situation.
You want to direct the main heat on the subframe connector, and then roll into the floor pan. You know, just kind of start down here, and then push up into it, and then release, let it cool off, and off again.
Yeah, you don't want to burn a hole into your floor pan, so you start the weld on a thicker material, and you push it in, and then you stop and let it cool. You can't make one continuous weld, or else you're just going to blow holes all in your floor pan, right, Ron?
Correct. It'd be more of a plasma torch than a weld.
Well, Ron, we've got the subframe connectors all welded in, and it's time to actually spray them now. We've got some Eastwood Extreme Chassis Black in satin, and it's real durable. That's one of our favorite things to paint the undercarriage with. It's got 3 times more resin in it than the standard chassis black. And when it goes on there, it's there to stay. It's very resistant to rust and corrosion, and it'll look good for a long time to come. That is the installation of the Reilly Motorsports subframe connectors for Mopar A-bodies. I would like to mention that any car that has a subframe construction, a unibody construction, can benefit from the addition of subframe connectors. One of the things that subframe connectors do best is that they stiffen up the chassis so you have a whole lot less cowl shake and noise and vibration inside the cockpit. And for cars with high horsepower engines, like our Indy Cylinder Head's 500 cubic inch wedge, a set of subframe connectors can keep the car from twisting up. A lot of times when cars twist up, you can damage the bodywork and you can cause cracks in the paint and bends in the sheet metal. So the subframe connectors really turn a subframe car into a full frame car, as you can see here. Perhaps the most important thing that a set of subframe connectors will give you on a unibody construction is that when you have a really good suspension like we do with our Street Links rear suspension and our Altercation front suspension, is that it ties the front to the rear and keeps everything on the same playing field. So when you're going around corners or in a braking zone or accelerating away from the starting line, you have the entire car acting as one unit. It's not flopping all around and twisting like a rubber band. So you really need to have that in place before you get any of the benefits of any suspension aftermarket goodies. We're going to have all this for you in an upcoming issue of Popular Hot Rodding, so stay tuned.